Hey everyone, it's Saoirse, and today we are going to talk about Sally Rooney's newest book, Intermezzo. So this just came out, 2024, and I was so excited when I saw it. I somehow missed the news that this was happening, and I just saw it in the bookstore, and the store was doing a book club as well, so I thought, perfect timing. I'm going to read the book in time, and I'll go to the book club, which I did. So I will read you the flap, and then we have a million things to get into here. So it says, an exquisitely moving story about grief, love, and family, but especially love, from the global phenomenon Sally Rooney. Aside from the fact that they are brothers, Peter and Ivan Kubek seem to have little in common. Peter is a Dublin lawyer in his 30s, successful, competent, and apparently unassailable, but in the wake of their father's death, he is medicating himself to sleep and struggling to manage his relationships with two very different women. His enduring first love, Sylvia, and Naomi, a college student for whom life is one long joke. Ivan is a 22-year-old competitive chess player. He has always seen himself as socially awkward, a loner, the antithesis of his glib elder brother. Now, in the early weeks of his bereavement, Ivan meets Margaret, an older woman emerging from her own turbulent past, and their lives become rapidly and intensely intertwined. For two grieving brothers and the people they love, this is a new interlude, a period of desire, despair, and possibility, a chance to find out how much one life might hold inside itself without breaking. Okay, it sounded very appealing to me. You know that I love to read anything about grief, and I loved her other books. Normal People I really loved, and I think Conversations with Friends I loved even more. Beautiful World, Where Are You? Truthfully, I don't remember the plot at all, which is very weird. I think that's the one I read most recently, and I thought about it and I was like, I really don't remember what happened in that book, but I think I liked it. But this one, you will notice if you've read her other work and you open this up on the first page, you might have been like, excuse me? Is there something going on with my brain? Because I think I'm not reading this correctly. It was very, very hard to get into because the stream of consciousness style is really off-putting for some people, and it was for me. I will say I did not know what the title meant for the entire time. Didn't think to look it up, and didn't know until I went to this book club and they talked about it. All I was thinking was Intermezzo is the name of a coffee shop downtown, and like obviously I know that's not what this is referring to, but I don't know, I didn't think to look it up, and it is actually a chess move. They said in the book club it's where a player makes an unexpected move to frustrate their opponent's defense. So that got me really, that sparked my interest because something clicked when I was at this book club. I was like, oh my god, all the characters in this book are like, they're like chess pieces, and they're in this kind of stalemate because none of them are able to communicate properly with each other. They're refusing to, or they just don't have the tools to. And there's a lot of interiority in this novel. The characters are talking in circles around each other. They're avoiding issues. It is extremely real, especially if you are someone who has a sibling where maybe you don't communicate very well and you just let bad feelings get bigger and bigger until you don't, you just feel unable to face them, and this person becomes like this evil entity to you and not really a person, your sibling. So that was just like really astute observation on her part. I don't know if she has a sibling. I don't know how she manages to write all these different characters and make them seem like different people. You know, in my writing, it's very like, here's another young woman with mental health issues, and it's in first person. You know, that's what I like to write. But she's so good at this, stepping into other characters. The other thing that did drive me insane is the lack of quotation marks, which I think she did in her other books, but I don't remember. In this one, it was especially difficult to follow because there are massive blocks of text, just huge paragraphs, sometimes the entire page being one big paragraph, and there will be dialogue in there, and there are no quotation marks. So it's really long too. It's her longest one, about 450 pages. And some who read this might think it didn't need to be that long, but with these kind of books, I like to go on this journey where I don't care that there isn't a huge plot. You know me by now. I don't care about there being a plot. I like the character study more, and so we get that with this book. It was tough for me at times, but eventually I found myself going, oh, I really want to return to that and see what those characters are doing. I want to see how things turn out for them. And that to me says that she got it right. If I'm feeling that way, like I'm not that interested in this story or like I don't know the circumstances, but I'm interested in the characters and I want to see what happens with them because they feel so real. So that was well done. Sentence fragments. Yeah, so the sentence fragments are mostly in Peter's chapters. It alternates between Peter and Ivan, and in his chapters, I could see the sentence fragments after a while. I was like, oh, this is really indicating depression. It's indicating the way that his brain is working, just able to kind of take little snippets of life. You know, he can't take in too much at once. He's completely overwhelmed by his depression. So once I figured that out, I was like, okay, I'm cool with this. So let's read a bunch of quotes from here. And these can do with anything. These can just like, this stood out to me for whatever reason. Has to do with the theme. It's just a sentence I liked. You know how it goes. So there's this bit about the word passionate when Margaret meets Ivan. Why did she say the word passionate to him when they were talking? And why did he repeat it so many times, 3 or even 4 times? Is the word passionate, or is it not basically an obscene item of vocabulary? No, it isn't. But is it like a small bandage placed over an item of vocabulary that is in fact obscene? Maybe yes. A word with blood running through it. A red word. In casual conversation, it's better to use words that are gray or beige. Where did it come from then, this word passionate? I really like that. A word with blood running through it. What a great way to describe that word. Because it's true, if you're having a conversation in like a professional setting or with somebody you just met, and you say the word passionate, it's like, oh, what have I done? We've just acknowledged something that maybe it wasn't polite to, which is ridiculous. But there are so many moments in this book of the character just overanalyzing the conversation that they've just had. And we did talk quite a bit in the book club about Ivan being neurodivergent and how she doesn't really state that. But it could be important to read this with that in mind. Okay. And what if life is just a collection of essentially unrelated experiences? Why does one thing have to follow meaningfully from another? So this is Margaret trying to reconcile with the idea that she's started this relationship with a very young man, and she's really spiraling, like, what does this say about me that I'm doing this? And I love that way of looking at it. A lot of what I liked about this book was Margaret, actually. As soon as she was introduced, I was like, okay, maybe I can hang with this book, because before that I thought, I don't know if I can hang. But I really liked her character. What if life is just a collection of essentially unrelated experiences? Because we're always trying to connect things. We're always, at least I'm always trying to make things have meaning and to think about cause and effect. Oh my God, this is happening to me because I did that 4 years ago. When really, why does everything have to follow from everything else? Why can't it just be this collection of unrelated experiences? Everything is not fate. Everything is not a result of something. I don't know. Or even if it is, you don't have to think of it that way. I think this is more Margaret. I can't turn my pages. She has been contained before, contained and directed by the trappings of ordinary life. Now she no longer feels contained or directed by these forces, no longer directed by anything at all. Life has slipped free of its netting. She can do very strange things now. She can find herself a very strange person. Young men can invite her into holiday cottages for sexual reasons. It means nothing. That isn't true. It means something, but the meaning is unfamiliar. Ooh, love that. Life has slipped free of its netting. As somebody who's very, you can tell like she's very type A and controlled and uptight about, like the way that things are supposed to be, she suddenly finds that this vision she has of life is slipping away, and it's not in the net anymore. It's gotten loose, and she can find herself in situations that she would have previously thought completely impossible and absurd. Margaret didn't explain what she would be doing instead, because Anna deplores in Margaret, as in everyone, the vanity that is gratified by the flirtatious attentions of others. But then Anna has a husband, and now even a baby, both of whom offer her in different ways the love and devotion that supersedes and makes irrelevant the pleasure of praise and compliments. It seems hard in Anna, therefore, to condemn Margaret's vanity, which has been so painfully starved in recent years, when Anna's own is fed by the incomparably hearty nourishment of unconditional love. Yeah, it is easy to judge when you have it all. It's tough being somebody who's single and then like trying to explain to all your friends in happy relationships why you feel like starved for affection. They're like, I don't get it. Well, yeah, because you literally have a partner, and in some cases, children who adore you. And I don't know why people like forget what it's like to be completely alone. Or some people literally never have been. You know, they went straight into a relationship when they became a teenager, and then were never ever single, and then got married. But I've been single for a long time, and like I totally understand Margaret here, where she wants to be, I don't know, seen. And it's not a bad thing to want to be adored or needed. And especially like being touch starved too is a huge thing. And people who live with other people that they're like in a relationship with, or if they have kids, they aren't touch starved, because they're always like, if you have a kid, they're always grabbing on you. But if you're single and you live alone, like Margaret, I mean, it's actually like, look it up. It's not a good thing. We were all going through that during COVID. I really liked this description. There's not a lot in her writing that resonates with me as far as like the style or the poetic element of it, which I look for a lot in the books that I love. But I liked this here. Ivan says nothing, just goes on walking beside her in the cold, bright air. From the field beside the laneway, behind the low stone wall, a small, sturdy sheep watches them passing, its dirty fleece silvered with rainfall, its face velvet black. Golden green fields stretching out into the faint blue distance, limitless clear air and light everywhere around them, filled with the sweet liquid singing of birds. Oh, okay, she just rarely does that. In all of these pages, she does so much dialogue. She's a brilliant dialogue writer. So there's very little like just landscape or environment description, and I loved that. You got the stone wall, the sturdy sheep. I love seeing the velvet black face of the sheep, the fields, the air, and then the sweet liquid singing of birds. So you're hitting a couple senses there in that paragraph. And it just made me think of, my time living in the UK. And like also, I've been to Ireland and to Dublin, and it's cool having that context when you're reading her work, where you can kind of picture what she's talking about, the places that she's mentioning. That always feels really special. This part like really upset me. It's just Ivan talking about how he was like trying to get paid because he works as like a tech guy for these different companies, and he's just trying to get paid. And he sent this message about it. let's see. He was not screaming, but using an angry tone of voice, and then he got an email saying that protecting the dignity of staff was the organization's top priority and that he had made the work environment feel unsafe, and then he didn't get paid. Also, the email scared him and made him feel like he was going to jail. That, I don't know, it makes me think of like everybody is not good or bad, but ambiguous, and we're seen differently by different people. And like you can think you're standing up for yourself and getting your paycheck, and other people can be like, no, you're the villain. Actually, you shouldn't have asked for money. So this book, you know, at least on the cover, says that it's about grief. That was like one of my complaints with it was I didn't really feel as much of that element as I expected to, since it's mentioned as being a central theme. Like, yes, their father died, and we get to see the different relationship that they each had with him, and that Ivan is more affected because he was closer, but for Peter it's a complicated level of being affected because when you're not close with a parent and they died, that's really hard too, because that brings up a lot of difficult feelings. But I just didn't feel like grief was the central element that I expected. But I liked this bit, Ivan remembering his father. Ivan cooked dinner for both of them, he remembers. It was pasta that he cooked. Thinking about that day, the dog running for the tennis ball, the pasta that they ate together, the feeling wells up inside him painfully, wanting to say and hear the words again that can never again be said or heard. To return to the house once more and not find it dark and empty, but airy and bright again, with open windows. To spend an afternoon together playing with the dog, eating dinner, doing nothing, only being together, just once more. What was I gonna say? Just this sense of like, we can't go back. There's no going back ever. And that's what grief is, really. It's, I will never have this person or animal or thing again, and that cannot change. That period of life is completely over. Grief really brings up that fear in us of things ending, because we like to think like there's always a second chance at everything, and there just isn't when something is truly over. From the time Ivan was in his teens, in any case, after the accident, not exactly a font of consolation was he. Offended, in fact, by the idea that anyone might experience an emotion in his vicinity. Like, I get it, you're upset, what do you expect me to do? That is really hard, to be around people who can't handle anybody else's emotions. Nobody can have an emotion around them. And some people are like, I'm so empathetic, I can't handle emotions because I'll take them on. And I'm so empathetic that I'll feel your emotions, but I'll sit with you through them because I care. Because I know what it feels like, because I'm literally feeling your emotions and I'm hurting for you, and so I want to be there for you. I can't understand like the people who just shut down when other people are sad. It's just not how I operate, I guess. Okay, this is an example of a massive stream of consciousness page. If you just want to look, just read a little bit of it, and it'll tell you like how difficult Peter's chapters are. This fur on my lip. Text swimming in front of his eyes to think. I'm sorry, where was I? Statute of Frauds, Ireland, 1695. Suddenness and finality of November evenings. Dark, cold midnight by 6 o'clock. Packs up his laptop in his briefcase, puts on his coat, gloves. Outside, buses trundling, frills through standing water. Said he would swing by Matt's birthday. 33. Age Jesus was when he... So Barbara says, is that right? Above in the hacienda, bending his head to try and hear, and it actually says that in the Gospels, or must be getting old, can't make out a thing she's saying. Laugh when she laughs, gold earrings fluttering. I hear congratulations are in order. Wasn't that your case today? Backwards in high heels. Right, he says, grinning at him. Hope you're proud of yourself, profiting off our misery. She's joking. Smile back at her. Damned if you do and all that. Drinks for the birthday boy, and then he'll head off. Is that right about Jesus? Do you know that he was 33? What's that, mate? Never mind. Listen, happy birthday. I could read this entire page, but it's probably getting annoying. God. And I get it. I get it, and I kind of appreciate it in the way that I appreciate the chaos of like a Jackson Pollock painting or something, where it is not for me, but I understand the point. Like this, I can see this text block, all these words, as a way that she is painting with words, and showing the chaos that is in Peter's mind and what it feels like to be depressed and to be trapped in your mind and not really able to be present with people and just experiencing everything as these little like flashing images. I just want to say I'm on your side. I know I've never done anything to help you, Ivan, but in principle, in spirit, I've been on your side all along. So, you ever have family where it's like, if you were not family, you would never speak to this person, like you would never be friends, and maybe they're particularly cruel to you, but then they say stuff like, well, we're family, and like, you know I'll always love you, and it's like, do you know what that means or what you're saying? And it's tough with Ivan and Peter, and if you think about any family relationship, is it worth holding on to because you have this blood bond that you didn't ask for? Does that mean something? Does it mean enough to hold on to something that might be toxic? I don't know. I'd be interested to know other people's thoughts on their relationship and if it is worth salvaging. We might get into spoilers. I think we will. So you should maybe dip out if you don't want them. This is a description from when Margaret is talking to Ivan. She's talking about this period of her past. And this really stood out to me as like, oh, this is what it feels like to be alive. It just says, crisp bed linen, fragrance of cut flowers, cold winter sunlight. Her simple physical sense of being in the world again, renewed, as if after a long absence. Turning of the seasons. At work, the dim buzz of her phone against the desk. Just those little crisp images that are part of everyday life. And, you know, some things are big, like, I mean, the turning of the seasons can be kind of big and dramatic. And then other things like the dim buzz of her phone against the desk. Like, if I'm in a good mood, everything feels kind of euphoric. I'm like, oh, that little sound, that little tiny sound that happens every day, I kind of like that. Reminds me that I'm alive. And then if I'm in a bad mood, I'm like, that's evil, and everything's horrible, and the world's gonna end, and I'm gonna die. Yeah. Okay. This is what you get, Bridget seemed to be saying, for being different. Well, it's true, after all, Margaret thinks. This is what you get. To work in a nice place with a few interesting people, to have friends with whom to discuss life and ideas, to attend the theater, to hear live music, to arrange the use of the studio room on Monday nights for the local philosophy reading group. Oh, Kierkegaard, that'll be interesting. To exercise once again for a little time, who knows how long, the power to charm and fascinate, to be the object of an intense and searching desire, and to feel inside herself the reciprocating force of desire. This is what she gets, a life of her own. Yeah, because it's like Bridget's her mother, and she's saying like this is what you get. This is what you get for leaving your husband and not having any children. And it's like, oh, I get this beautiful life all to myself, and I get to do things that I enjoy. Oh, how horrible. And this is how it feels to try and explain being single sometimes. Being single is not the end of the world, and it's also a perfectly natural state of being. It is, our natural state, and partnering up is another state of being. But first and foremost, we are alone. And to be able to enjoy your life doing the things that you love, nobody should feel sorry for you for that. Yeah, her relationship with her mother makes me sad. what is this? Somebody's asking, do you care about him? Like, does Ivan care about Peter? Maybe he has certain qualities I wish I could have, and it makes me jealous, like the way he's so popular and people think he's really witty, and when he's critical of me, it sticks in my head. What he said about my accent, that was like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, and I'm still self-conscious about that even now. Words stay forever. There have been things said to me many, many years ago that I will never get out of my head and make me question myself all the time in certain scenarios. Be careful with your words. What am I reading here? To love and for his love to be accepted. Yes, it was in fact painful. The relief of all that compression suddenly, to say the words aloud and hear her saying them, to be loved by her. It was so needed that it actually hurt. Not even a feeling of unmixed happiness, but of happiness that was strongly and confusingly mixed with many other feelings. Sadness, missing his father, and a kind of shame somehow, because each passing day seemed to bring Ivan further away from him and the life they used to have together. A life that was receding increasingly into the past, into the realm of childhood and adolescence, the realization that his adulthood, into which he was entering now so definitively, and which would last all the rest of his life, would have to be lived without his father, that he was becoming a person his father would never know. Okay, that part, this talk of love and grief intermingling, that was one of my favorite mentions of grief in the book, because that's what it is. You're realizing that life is going on and you can't stop it, and it's just pushing you forward into the future without this person, and you're never going to get to know you, who you are now, and you don't get to know who they would have been, and you don't get to share so many things with them that you would have shared if they were here. And it's like you feel like you're forgetting them if you continue on. And if you have any happiness, and there's a lot of guilt in having happiness. Oh, there's this whole argument about like what is truth and what's a lie based on this really complicated philosophical question. But why should it be any different? It goes to show, Ivan thinks, that the difference between truth and lying is complicated. You think you're fitting language onto the world in a certain way, like a child fitting the right shaped toy into the right shaped slot. But at times you realize that that's a false picture too. Language doesn't fit onto reality like a toy fitting into a slot. Reality is actually one thing, and language something else. You just have to agree with yourself not to think about it too much. So that stressed me out, because it was like, oh God, there's a lot of gray area in life, and not everything is the truth or a lie. It's a gray area. Oh no, I can't categorize everything. The most distressing thing about Bridget's attitude to Margaret, and especially towards her marriage, is not the belief that Bridget is being cruel so much as the suspicion, bred in the bone, a lifelong instinct, that after all, she might be right. Can the deep childhood impulse to trust one's mother, to agree with her against oneself, ever be wrestled down by the comparatively thin force of reasoned argument? Are there even reasoned arguments to be made in matters of love, marriage, intimate life? Yeah, it's this weird thing where you like always have a need, a desire to impress your family. And, you know, you're raised to think like, oh, my parents are right. They're telling me the right thing, and I should trust them. So it's weird to be like, oh, they're fallible people too. So this is a good thing about like when you have an age gap with your sibling. Well, you're my little brother. I'm a lot older than you are. Maybe I do find it difficult to accept that you're an adult now, but that's not to say I look down on you. So I have firsthand experience with this, being the younger sister by 5 years. And there's a sense that like the older sibling will just never see you as an adult. They'll never see you as the person you are right now, because it's very hard, and it's even hard in other relationships, not just sibling ones, but like well, any family really where you see the family member aging, like maybe that was your little cousin or that's your niece, and like now they're older. How are they older? It doesn't make any sense because that means I'm aging too. But it's tough. Like if you're an older sibling, please, like you be nice to this little person and accept that they like can grow up into a big person and they need your love. Sorry, I'm being distracted by Facebook Marketplace messages. I've been trying to sell something for like 18 years. Okay. No one is perfect. Sometimes you need people to be perfect and they can't be, and you hate them forever for not being, even though it isn't their fault and it's not yours either. You just needed something they didn't have in them to give you. And then in other people's lives, you do the same thing. You're the person who lets everyone down, who fails to make anything better, and you hate yourself so much you wish you were dead. So there's this great phrase that I think my mom told me, and she got from somewhere where, like, somebody said, "You're trying to get milk from Home Depot. They don't have it." And that's what I think of anytime I'm like expecting something from someone who is just not able to give that thing. I'm trying to get milk from Home Depot. They simply don't sell it here. And also, if they did, can you imagine? It would probably be pretty gross. I don't know if I want to buy milk from like a home improvement store. So that is to say, if somebody cannot give you this certain affection, them trying to fake it and get that milk in stock for you would probably not taste very good. How do we still have so many more? All right near the end. Because a living person has their own reality, he says. The person who's gone has no reality anymore except in thoughts. And once they're gone from thoughts, they actually are completely gone. If I don't think about him, literally, I'm ending his existence. That's another stressful thing about grief, is like, if I don't think about and talk about this person all the time, then they're disappearing. And I don't know. You know, obviously, like, the person who remembers that person is also going to die someday. So nobody's truly immortal in that way. But, you know, it's a fear that a lot of us have when grieving. So who is having sex here? Who is this? Who's having sex? Literally. Ivan and Margaret. I'm like, give me a name. This enclosed in ordinary existence, the desire from which all human life derived, the origin of everything. Yeah, that kind of like sums it up about why it feels like the meaning of life. I know not everybody looks at it that way, but like when you're in a very intense sexual relationship, that's what it feels like. Yeah, because it is this driving force that is the reason why humanity still exists. She's good at writing sex scenes. What does that say? Oh. She didn't even stop the car, her sense of rightness dearer to her than her own life. So that we talked about in the book club, this sense of righteousness that both Margaret and Peter actually have, which makes me think that they'll be good friends. And, you know, that's why it's so tough for Margaret to give up this idea, this vision of the way that life should be, because she is so self-righteous. And her self-worth is gleaned from other people thinking that she's doing things right, that she, like, you know, like with her mother, she wants her siblings to see she's taking care of the dishwasher or whatever it was. You know, she's doing the right thing. She's the upstanding, good daughter. And that is like what she clings to. So that's why it feels like her life is slipping loose of the netting. Like, oh my God, I'm doing this crazy thing that people wouldn't approve of, and that's going to change everything. I'm sorry, my chair is so creaky. It's like 2 creaks from completely falling apart and putting my butt on the floor. Margaret will have to let him go after all, to bear that, the pain, the embarrassment, caught out again, making a show of herself, serves her right, or in 10 years' time, against the odds, they might look back and laugh together, maybe. Sense of all the windows and doors of her life flung open, everything exposed to the light and air, nothing protected, nothing left to be protected anymore. A wild woman, her mother called her, a shocking piece of work. And so she is. Lord have mercy. Oh, I just love that. This idea of like this perfectly normal, nice woman who's just happening to fall in love with somebody much younger than her, who is still very much like appropriate age, however you want to define appropriate. He's legal and consenting, and this makes her this kind of wicked woman. Just goes against everything that she has been told her life should be like. Oh, this is sad. I mean, Peter and Ivan's mother, that was a whole other really depressing thing. The fact that she has this new husband and other family, and it's just very, very depressing. She cannot be always available. That lesson has to be learned sometime, and why not at 16 or at 6? A mother is not an endless thing. She has done what she could. A mother is not an endless thing. I have a lot of thoughts about, if you're going to have children, you are really entering into this contract of like, I'm going to be here for this human that I created for as long as I'm alive. And this is one of those parents who just didn't do that. She's like, done my job, and you're on your way. And, maybe I'll see you a couple times a year. It's just so wrong to me. Okay, we have a few more. Yes, she is his nemesis, his accomplice, his little plaything. That he has come to love her, such an absurdity, like a stage fight where it turns out the knives are real. Probably thought she could get the better of him, teach him a lesson without getting her fingers burned. This idea of playing with people. Peter has this much younger girlfriend, Naomi, and he's like, oh crap, I've fallen in love with her. And I love that line, a stage fight where it turns out the knives are real. Like, we thought that we could just kind of like go along with this game and everything would be fine. But oh, that's right, like real humans' feelings are involved. You can do whatever you want with me. And he has. That is exactly what he has done, whatever he wanted, as if attempting to reach the end of his desires, to find out what is there at the end. Discovering instead with horror that his desires, even when instantly and gorgeously gratified, only make him increasingly unhappy and insane, wanting too much to love, to be loved, by her, yes, but not only, and anyway by now she probably hates him. Ooh, that wanting too much, like, nothing is ever going to be enough, even if you get precisely what you're angling for at the moment. It's actually a much deeper issue. And what you're asking for right now is not going to solve it. Out the streaming wet windows, the backs of houses, suburban gardens, chimneys loosing coils of black smoke. Thought rises with an unutterable relief. If it were all over. Yes. Just to get to the end and be finished. The calm that comes over him to think. Great, deep, all-enveloping calm that cannot be taken from him. Relish of allowing himself to contemplate. Yes, he can feel it. Pure and clean. To rest. Only to rest. At last. That feeling that you have when you're like, oh, I can just die, and then I can rest, and everything's easy, and all of this goes away. Everything I'm fretting about right now. Yeah, this last part with Peter it really, really got to me a lot. Yes, I would like to, yes, I would like, he thinks, to live. See how weirdly the things are worded? Yes, I would like, he thinks, to live in such a way that I could vanish into thin air at any time without affecting anyone, and in fact, I feel that for me this would constitute the perfect and perhaps the only acceptable life. At the same time, I want desperately to be loved. Oh, I mean, hello. Closing it out with like a really relatable line there. To want for nobody to be affected if you just disappeared. You want to just poof, vanish, and have it be proven that you are as forgettable as you think you are. But also, really, really, really wanting to be loved in this lifetime, which unfortunately means being seen and being known. And if people love you, they will be sad if you're gone. So it's like, crap, I'm stuck in this really tough dilemma right here. So that's all I'm going to read. Yeah, spoiler time. What did you think about the ending with Peter's decision and Sylvia and Naomi's decision that they are, all going to have this kind of unconventional relationship where Peter is sort of with both of them? And someone in the book club was like, this is Sally Rooney coming out as polyamorous. I don't know if that's true, but it was intriguing to me because that's a lifestyle that I don't understand, that I'm very uninterested in. I wouldn't have a polyamorous relationship, but she makes us spend so much time with these characters that by the end, by the time that decision is finally made, it's like, oh, it feels very earned, and it does make sense. So that was really powerful that she was able to do that. To have like a mainstream audience come around to the idea of, oh, actually this could be okay. And then Margaret and Ivan staying together, that was like, oh, thank you, just let something good happen. And I liked the little dog. What was the little dog's name? I'll never find it. I'll never find it. I'm literally gonna Google it. But that sweet little dog, like, the descriptions of the dog were some of my favorite things. Alexei. It was just so horrific the way that the mom treated the dog when she had to take care of it after the father died. And I was so happy it got to go be with Ivan and Margaret. So, what did you think of this? Did you like it more or less than her other books? There were only a few, like, thumbs downs in the book club. And only a couple, like, 2 thumbs up. Most of us were like, that. And it's just, yeah, it was really interesting to hear other people's thoughts on this. To be in a room with, like, 30 people who all have different opinions was very exciting. So, that is it for now. And thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Until then, happy reading.